Wow. What a mess.
Oh, great! Look who just had to ruin the intro.
So...
Welcome, my achievement hunters and collectible gatherers. Today we're back again with yet another installment of my beloved franchise receives the most perplexing self-sabotaging sequel possible. I'm talking a Nintendo game conflicting enough to make the Arlo disassociate.
There was this guy, this doofy nerd guy with glasses, and he started quipping at me. Making little jokes.
I swear, it wasn't even that long ago that I covered Little Nightmares 3. What's next? Are we snatching Dark Souls from the shadows and turning it into a party game for ages 5 and below? Actually thinking about it, FromSoft could probably pull that off. This is episode 12 of the Complete Critique series, where I pick apart some of your favorite games to see where they excel, or maybe even where they fail. To begin, let me pick your mother brain real quick. What is a Metroid game? Is it Halo? No, of course not. Is it Breath of the Wild? I don't think so. Is it Mario Kart? Yes? There's no way. Is that a blue shell? Hey, watch out, Samus! Oh my god, she's wearing Aaron pods. She can't hear us. No, Sam! Alright, beneath all the joking, defining the identity of a Metroid game is paramount to understanding why Prime 4 had the reaction it did. Here at 100% Hunter, I make sure to give the games I cover a fair evaluation. I 100%ed Metroid Prime 4 and have seen its various glaring flaws, but also its worthwhile qualities that do enhance the experience for even longtime fans. I'll be critiquing 8 alien categories for our silent, like seriously too silent bounty hunter today. These of course being storyline, gameplay, characters, enemies, locations, aesthetic, music, and content. Without further ado, let's completely critique Metroid Prime 4. Don't you dare.
You ever do any arm wrestling?
Halt, wary traveler! This is an analysis and not just some layman's review. Meaning there will be plenty of spoilungas ahead. You have been warned. Metroid Prime 4 starts off like any other old Metroid game. Samus undertakes contractual work, cough, bounty hunting, and arrives at the UTO Research Center on planet Tanimar. Those terms mean basically nothing at this point, but I gotta set the stage, capiche? And so Samus disembarks from her gunship to kick ass and take names. Standard procedure, really. After getting used to the controls and jumping around for a bit, I swear this isn't indicative of my skill level, she enters the facility. Samus blasts her way through corridors of malicious space pirates, even witnessing the new golem mech in action, and eventually reaches the artifact. You end up facing against a space pirate general called Abarax, who merges with a new variant of Metroid. That's a little scary. We're gonna call this new Metroid variant a formality Metroid, because this is the only time you see one in the entire game. It really feels like these perfunctory mind-controlling blobs simply had to be included for the namesake of the series. But that doesn't really work when this is a Metroid Prime game, and I assure you, there is no Metroid Prime in this story. You know, because we fucking annihilated it and its lair almost 2 decades ago. And while I'm on that note, Space Pirates 2 are relegated to just the prologue. I'll elaborate on why this is incredibly stupid later, but for now, a wild Silux has appeared to take the artifact. For reasons. Samus then proceeds to take him down with a single charge shot, oh my god, and the artifact activates, warping everyone with it to another planet. Now, if not for the power of retrospect, this is a near-perfect prologue. It sets up a threat, an objective, and a problem. Sylux and his corruptive Metroids are framed as a lethal foe, the goal to escape an alien planet is as compelling a reason as any, and the trouble of surviving an unknown hostile environment is convincing. However, as you'll see, this narrative crumbles when two of these three hooks are shelved until the finale. Though I'm getting ahead of myself, let's get back to the current story. Samus warps to the distant world of Viros in a structure called Chrono Tower. Inside, she gains access to psychic powers that allow her to understand the local language, along with many other neat abilities. And at the pinnacle of this tower, she meets Priest Chatoyant Valoon, who informs Samus of a prophecy about the Chosen One. To summarize, this is the famous wax-on, wax-off guy you've probably heard about. Come on now, Samus. You must follow these simple steps. You need to phase on, phase off. Breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Phase on, phase off. Don't forget to breathe, Samus. How's this supposed to help me get back home? Shh. You're forgetting to breathe, Samus. Now, keep your composure when I say this, but you're gonna need to preserve our history and rescue this doomed planet from extinction. Oh, hell no! I just knew you were gonna say something like that. It's also here that we run into Mr. I'll mark it on your map himself, Myles McKenzie! He's the first of 5 Galactic Federation troopers that also got transported to Viros via the artifact. And if you really need introductions, we got Walking Nerd Emoji, the interesting one, Red Velvet Cake, the D1 Glazer, and you can't forget about the obligatory funny robot. I love that guy. But honestly, these goons don't really have that much of an impact on the narrative as a whole, so I'll go in depth more in the character section. Thus, our altruistic boss lady embarks on a legendary journey to gather the 5 master teleporter keys, rescue the stranded soldiers, and preserve the legacy of the Lemorn. And yeah, for the next 80% of the game, you kinda just do that. Much of the middle plot is centered around the player meeting new NPCs and learning the tragic history of the ancient Lemorn race. Which, let me just say, I loved everything about the Lemorn's past. Surprisingly, it's an alien race we fail to save. By the time Samus shows up, they're already far extinct. Hooray! I fucking hate aliens. Their history can be divided into 3 distinct periods of time: the Ancient Era, the Machine Era, and the Psychic Era. The Ancient Era marks the discovery of the Sacred Tree, construction of the Temple of Memory, and the birth of the Chosen One prophecy. Similar to the Chozo or Luminoth before, the Lemorn were intelligent beings. Therefore, it is no surprise that they would come to innovate and usher in a period of colossal technological advancements. The Machine Era involved the inventions of technology like the Viola bike, the multi-purpose Cybots, or the cargo launchers. Though the overproduction of these devices had devastating consequences, depleting Viros' natural resources faster than they could replenish. This is how that dumbass desert came to be instead of a verdant landscape. And as if a literal miracle, the worried race comes across green energy in the lavas of Magdrada Volcano, an abundant substance that can nurture biological entities and power mechanical ones. Green energy granted the Lemorn a chance to correct their fatal errors by rejuvenating life in Soul Valley. This led to the construction of the green energy cannon and flare pool and the end of the Machine Era. Unfortunately, the Lemorn learned nothing and kept sticking their grubby little non-psychic hands in every crevice they could find. Eventually, they discovered Viros crystals deep in the Great Mines, propelling their species into the Psychic Era. This period of time was represented by the shutdown of production facilities like Voltforge and the integration of psychic-oriented devices. Above all, the crystals allowed every Lemorn to use the Force by manually embedding psychic crystals into their foreheads. And up to that point, there were just 13 individuals naturally born with these crystals. Not gonna lie, I kinda love that the Lemorn addressed this form of inequality among their people. Pretty noble. Yet this seemingly benevolent action backfired. Really bad. Like really bad. So bad, it became the catalyst for something called the Great Tragedy. And if you were wondering, that's not a good thing. You see, the green energy cannon was already in use before the crystal embedding, meaning the Lemorn couldn't have predicted their flawed plan. The next time the cannon was fired, dispersing green energy across the desert, any Lemorn with artificial crystal implantations transformed into violent creatures. Only the 13 Lemorn with natural psychic crystals were unaffected. A terrifying population-altering event. The Great Tragedy. This brings us back to Samus's new mission, to preserve the legacy of the Lemorn. Understandably, these guys knew that they shat the bed, big time. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I would probably also panic if I witnessed an overwhelming majority of my people turn into knockoff necromorphs. That's the reason Samus feels the need to collect green energy crystals and nurture the memory fruit. Does that make green energy crystals any more fun to gather? Hell no! But within the context of this lost civilization, it makes enough sense. I think a lot of players misinterpret the plight of the Lemorn, which makes sense with how bloated the scan text in this game can be. The green energy showers were initially harmless, and the Lemorn forged on with no reason to suspect any hidden dangerous properties in the substance. Further testing would have yielded nothing if they used tissue samples, for instance, because green energy solely affects artificial Viros crystals. It was only once those crystals were embedded in the Lemorn's foreheads that the green energy revealed its gene reshaping properties, an unpredictable effect. Rather than victims of ignorant oversight, they are victims to the unknowns of nature. Regrettably, I'm unable to offer the same praise towards the finale of Prime 4. Once Samus has retrieved the 5 Master Teleporter keys, she and the Federation squad use a Golem mech to break the barrier around Chrono Tower. Ascending to the pinnacle, they activate the Master Teleporter and prepare to go back to Tanimar. Holy shit, Duke's gonna see his wife and kids again! Sylux is sadly my biggest issue with Prime 4's overarching story. To put it lightly, I'm torn between the half of me that thinks the dude is badass and the other half that was underwhelmed by his presence. I had already stated that the prologue frames him as the threat, the very enemy that you'll have to overcome with time. And then, as opposed to racing to gather the teleporter keys or consistently opposing your own travels, bro spends the entire game in VR chat.
Come back. Wait, I'm looking for people that are not here.
Somehow, he has access to the Lemorn's defensive technology, allowing him to operate machinery and Cybot clones of himself. By the way, why are the Cybots able to mimic his appearance and abilities? I'm sure none of these would even be concerns if Sylux actually acted as a rival. Think back to Dark Samus from Prime 2 or 3. She is constantly a thorn in your side, either getting in your way directly or setting you up for failure down the line. Sylux doesn't even attempt to snatch a teleporter key from you. Circling back, this is a perfect moment to bring up the baffling choices regarding the prologue's Lemorn artifact. First, I want you to peep the radius on this teleportation field. Next, tell me how the hell the only things that got teleported were Samus, Sylux, 5 GF troopers, a single Golem mech, and random facility debris. I can't emphasize enough that the devs legit set themselves up to carry over space pirates, Metroids, more GF troopers, anything to this isolated planet. Imagine if you could find deceased GF troopers that didn't survive their way to Viros. Imagine if while driving around the desert, you could encounter random skirmishes between space pirates and Federation soldiers. Imagine if space pirates conducted green energy experiments on the local wildlife or themselves like they did with Phazon. Imagine if Sylux and the space pirates collaborated to rework Lemorn technology against Samus, hindering her progress. I'm fine with Sylux as a character, including his backstory. However, it should be obvious that there was lost potential in his interactions with Samus. As it is, the artifact's capabilities make zero sense and limit the creativity that could have come with large-scale teleportation. The ending left me mixed as well. Samus prevails over Sylux, and the crew activates the teleporter once more. Finally, Duke's going to see his wife and kids again! I think I really need to stop saying that. Sylux then rips a hole in the space-time continuum just to blast Mackenzie in the back. I take back everything negative I said about Sylux. He is so real for that. Consequently, Samus's teammates decide to make a heroic sacrifice, intervening with Sylux to ensure that she makes it back home safely. Whoa. Did Samus just commit to the bit and abandon the NPC squad? Can't believe I'm saying this, but she is just like me for real. Damn! On a real note, the probable outcome is that they're still alive out there and will be rescued in Metroid Prime 5, or something. But on the off chance that they're truly dead or become hosts for Sylux's Metroids, that'd have to be one of Samus's grimmest decisions in this series. Note to self, if you're ever stranded somewhere with Samus, she's leaving yo ass. Thankfully, the credits scene ends the game on a high note, with its satisfying tribute to the fallen Lamorne and GF troopers. Samus plants the memory fruit, along with her psychic crystal, therefore preserving the legacy of the Lamorne. It's quite an emotional scene, and I can't help loving that Samus adorns the young memory tree with Tokabi's talisman. And with a sorrowful nod, she turns and heads off to do more contractual work, though clinging to her are many unanswered questions. What has become of Sylux? Has View 995 escaped the clutches of death once more? Will Samus stop being rude and actually respond to others with her voice? Or maybe those theorists that think this is a time travel story are correct. Actually, I think I see Tokabi's talisman all the way up there. Zoom in, zoom in. Oh, hey, look at that! View 995 did survive!
Yes! Hell yeah! Come on, baby! Come on! Yes! Come on! Yes! Yes!
Anyways, the simple answer to most of those questions is that Prime 4 is likely setting up a new trilogy and didn't want to explain everything right away. Even Prime 1 manages to barely scratch the surface of what would later become the Phazon saga. So hopefully the next entry in this series will expand upon the minimal lore crumbs we got in this one. Another thing I'm pressed to address is the writing team and their astonishingly basic naming department. Samus's upgrades are the first to come to mind. Why did they just slap the word psychic in front of everything and call it a day? Psychic bomb, psychic boost ball, psychic grapple, psychic boots. I get it, the story's focused on psychic energy, blah blah blah. Come on, there had to be one alternative, any alternative out there to this. At least the Control Beam, Legacy Suit, and Viola had cool names. If I were to take a gander, I believe the problem stems from Prime 4 reimagining pre-existing abilities, but needing to separate them by name. This could have been solved by giving the upgrades psychic-esque descriptors that pertain to their unique abilities whilst retaining their base names. Psychic Bomb could become Moat Bomb, Psychic Boost Ball could become Kinetic Boost Ball, Psychic Grapple could become Tether Grapple, and Psychic Boots could become Hover Boots. There's definitely better naming schemes out there, but the few I selected above took not even a minute to think up, and yet they already are a vast improvement. At least it gives it an identity past Psychic Blank, because we can all tell how dumb that is. Locations were another section that suffered from all too literal names. Here's some comparisons between Prime 1 and 4 for reference. For the designated forest biome, 1 had Talon Overworld and 4 had Fury Green. For the desert biome, 1 had Chozo Ruins and 4 had Soul Valley. For the lava biome, 1 had Magmore Caverns and 4 has Flare Pool. For the ice biome, 1 has Phendrana Drifts and 4 has Ice Belt. For the cave biome, 1 has Phazon Mines and 4 has Great Mines. Notice a pattern? Metroid Prime 1 incorporates otherworldly fictitious words followed by a common human one. This gives the player a sense of entering a foreign environment while simultaneously having a hint of familiarity. That's just one of the many ways the first game immerses the player in its strange world. Full Forge's Peak though. If you want to badmouth that one, you'll have to go through me. And I am a towering 5'6" individual, so good luck with that. Although I think we can all agree that the most atrocious example of lazy naming comes in the form of green energy. Yeah, buddy, we already have that in real life. It's called Monster. You know what? I'm just gonna leave it at that. I doubt elaboration is required to understand that this is an observation, not the scientific name of a mysterious substance. Like, okay, sure, dude, let's go back to Phazon and call it blue piss. Funny enough, the writers locked in when coming up with the Lamorne and Grievers, so maybe that's what took all their creative resources. One of the major themes in Prime 4's narrative is grief. So you're gonna lose your mind when I tell you that the term Lamorne is derived from the words lament and mourn. And Grievers, their feral counterparts, are a little more subtle, so I'll let you figure that one out for yourself. This is also further backed up by the Legacy Suit and Memory Fruit, which both relate to the ideas of remembrance. The concept of grief also translates to the arcs of Samus and Sylux. For Samus, there's the pain of having failed to save the Lamorne, bring the Federation troopers home, or properly deal with the rogue bounty hunter. As for Sylux, he's haunted by his past as a Galactic Federation officer, where he lost his entire battalion to a space pirate weapon. Fittingly, the second prominent theme explored is that of acceptance. The Lamorne's tale is a tragic one, yet as Chitoyant said himself,
Din an Kaisha, Kales Ashaka, Antakanin, Shatasek.
And sure enough, the other 12 surviving Lemorn left Viros to search for the Chosen One and prevent the destruction of their species. Whether it be using green energy to fix the ecosystem, reversing the genetic makeup of the Grievers back to their Lemorn brethren, or traveling the cosmos for the slimmest chance at salvation, you can see time and time again that these stubborn little fellas do not go down without a fight. Even when they realize that their end is inevitable, they ask Samus to carry on their history through planting the memory fruit. Samus herself displays acceptance through hanging Takabi's talisman on the newly sprouted memory tree. Yet Sylux symbolizes the flip side of the coin. What happens when you outright refuse to acknowledge your mistakes as your own? Rather than shouldering the burden of those that died under his rash decisions, he blamed them on Samus's late arrival, and still does to this day. It's great to see the interplay of grief and acceptance between the three main players in this game's plot. With that in mind, it's about time we rate Metroid Prime 4's storyline. For the first time since Other M, we have a more story-driven Metroid game. Even then, it's a pretty standard plot that doesn't seem to take full advantage of its larger roster of characters. This was especially apparent with Sylux, who was not present enough to justify his role as the primary villain. The finale also took a hit from the characters being underutilized, making their sacrifice lack the proper impact. The credit scene, though, is perfect, bringing the narrative's themes of grief and acceptance full circle as Samus honors the fallen Lemorn and Federation troopers. And luckily, the lore surrounding Viros and the ancient Lemorn race was peak Metroid writing that is compelling without shoving it right in your face. What wasn't peak Metroid writing were the names for abilities, locations, and green energy, which quite literally felt like placeholders. Overall, I'd say the game has intriguing, rich lore, but an underbaked narrative that looks to be setting up some sort of sequel. Between the two, Metroid Prime 4 gets an equally so-so storyline rating of 6 out of 10. I'm gonna say it flat out, Metroid Prime 4 is weird. Like, really weird. For a game that boldly introduces an expansive desert in a series known for tighter exploration, they sure do play it safe with the gameplay. What has typically been the case is a new Metroid title innovates in the weapons, gadgets, and abilities that Samus obtains across her journey. But this time around, like 80% of the upgrades are retreads or reimaginations. I'm not even exaggerating here. 25 arsenal upgrades can be acquired throughout Viros. 8 are the psychic variants of pre-existing abilities. 2 are the classic missile launcher and super missile, and 9 are generic fire, ice, and electric beams, along with their enhanced versions. What this leaves is the control beam, psychic glove, 3 unique power suits, and, I swear there had to be some dude in the team meetings that was adamant about how peak Metroid Prime 1 Remastered was. Bet it went something like this.
Alright everyone, we need to come up with novel abilities for our bounty hunter. I wish we could stop calling her that. Anyways, we're stuck with this control beam from Konami, so I thought we could focus on psychic properties as our theme. There's gotta be a lot we can do with mind powers. Any thoughts, people?
That's it! I've come up with a new ability!
Consider me intrigued. Shoot, boy. How about the sidekick Spider Ball? You do realize Spider Ball uses magnetic rails, right?
So we give it magical psychic rails, kinda like my idea for the psychic grapple beam.
Is that any different from the normal grapple beam?
Of course, sir. This one can swing along magical flying hooks.
Anything else?
Psychic boots.
Okay, this one sounds promising.
So it gives you double jump like space jump boots from before, but now you can stand on random psychic platforms.
Oh my god. You know what? We gotta ship this game out in the next couple of months, and this is the best we got. So, sir, what are we doing about naming these abilities? Actually, I'm really feeling the mystical psychic energy resonating from their names already. Very avant-garde, let's keep it.
Also, I won't lie that some neat ideas came out of this whole psychic ability thing. Psychic Boost Ball is nothing crazy, but I dig how the path materializes on the spot, and I wish something similar was done for the Spider Ball. I think there could have been puzzles revolving around finding the correct set of invisible rails while only being able to see a little bit in front of and behind you. Think Super Mario Galaxy's Bullberry ability, for example. In spite of that, being able to bounce across tether nodes was a wonderful addition that I'm sad we did not see more of. Not only was bouncing from node to node satisfying as hell, but some of the more demanding puzzles were the tether ones. Though by far my favorite has to be the synergy between Psychic Glove and Morph Ball Bomb. I don't know who thought of this, but they're hilarious. I commend them because throwing balls has never been funnier. Being able to deploy a bomb and then pick it up with telekinesis and launch it elsewhere opens a whole new world of possibility. You can even launch a damn power bomb if you want to.
順転と反転それぞれの無限を衝突させることで生成され出す挙式紫
Unfortunately, this was also neglected, seeing just a few moments of practical application. Worse yet, untapped potential carried over into the original upgrades as well. The control beam has memorable moments, such as guiding it inside Fenoros to finish it off, or swerving past turbines to activate Ice Belt's massive generator. But outside the maybe 10 times it's needed for something, I spent most of the game forgetting it was a part of my arsenal. I shit you not, the hardest puzzles in this game for me were the ones that required control beam because I kept forgetting it was there. My stupid monkey brain kept thinking I had to jump into the jaws of the giant fire snake. And spoiler alert, that does not work out for anyone. It's a terrible plan. As for the 3 suit upgrades, 2 give you access to the Viola's alternate forms, and the other offers a temporary psychic barrier. The Viola was sick though. Samus speeding around with a motorcycle was never an image that came to mind for a Metroid game, but you know what? Hell yeah! I think the kids would say that's skibbity aura. Yeah, that's right, Nintendo, I'm appealing to the modern youth. Feel free to take notes. Holy shit, I can't believe I just said that. Using the Viola to mine green energy crystals was one thing, driving on a race course was another. But you mean to tell me the one time we could have used it in an escape sequence we got a cutscene instead? That's just plain evil! Besides the utility upgrades, there were also 3 distinct beams. Shots that Samus could obtain. These being the Fire Shot, Ice Shot, and Thunder Shot. Apart from continuing the trend of dumb names, they are inoffensive in their implementation with expected effects. Fire Shot burns through enemies, clears ice or webs, and lights torches. Ice Shot freezes enemies, solidifies water, cools lava, or if you happen to encounter a hostile boiler, it can deal with that too. And Thunder Shot is capable of stunning enemies, reactivating dormant devices, including the GOAT himself, and well, this.
Gotcha, bitch!
What was offensive was the process to obtain the 3 beams. For some reason or another, Retro decided that finding an elemental chip does not automatically grant you access to the respective beam. Instead, you gotta take it all the way back to Myles the Guy McKenzie, so that he can integrate it into your arm cannon. Oh, I just love revisiting this guy, he's my friend. I love Myles. Fuck that guy! I really want you to feel my pain, so step in this bubble with me, okay? This is like buying a jar of pickles from Aldi's after Arm Day and being like, ah shit, I'm too weak to open this jar of pickles I just bought from Aldi's. So then I get in my car, drive to Mr. John 117's place, cause we tight like that, and then, and only then, can I eat a pickle. John's pickle. But what makes this 1,000 times more annoying is that macaroni and cheese isn't even located in the desert. He's all the way in Fury Green. So you ride your hog across a barren wasteland, watch a 30-second cannon launching scene, and then boom, new beam unlocked. Oh, you thought I was done? No! Here's another question. Why does Myles know how to tinker with this foreign technology, but the Samus Aran doesn't? Her suit's been absorbing alien doohickeys since the first game. Hell, she doesn't even require Myles for the optional beam combos. So what's the point behind this very specific series of upgrades requiring assistance from the dude that nearly got mauled by zombie monkeys? Okay, I'm done. Just had to get that off my chest because acquiring new beams is one of my favorite moments in any Metroid game. Okay, briefly I want to cover a few minor aspects of Prime 4's gameplay that I think are noteworthy while not exactly vital. Puzzles were about the standard for what the Prime franchise usually does. A vast majority are lock and key problems where the solution is simply obtaining the ability tied to it, though that didn't stop the game from pleasantly surprising me on occasion. One of the earlier puzzles in Volt Forge wants you to figure out how to get to the higher level of the manufacturing floor. To do so, Samus has to trick the assembly machines by acting as a wheel for the Viola with Morph Ball. There was also this one use of Morph Ball tethering where you have to swing along a pinball-like crevice to hit some lights. That was neat too. Then there's simpler examples like ramming cargo crates into each other or using multiple abilities to activate the Ice Belt generator. Obviously, these aren't really complex or intensely difficult. The 3D Metroid titles never seem to be, but the puzzles were still enjoyable and mesh well with the environment. However, one group of abilities I certainly felt the absence of were the visors. Sure, the scan visor is right there, but why is there no others? I thought the Psychic Visor was going to do something eventually, yet it really only allows you to read Lamorne writing or activate psychic devices. Needless to say, that is kinda lame. As for something new to the series, escort missions. I've always wanted to protect weak soldiers that give me a game over when they get overwhelmed. I'm just kidding. I didn't actually mind the escort sections of the game. They were far and few between and were over relatively quick, apart from the introductory one. With those out of the way, we finally arrived at a critical point. The very thing that made every gamer and their dog shed a tear. The Green Energy Crystal Hunt. Ignore the empty desert, ignore the linear map design, ignore the handling of Psylux, ignore the deadweights and View 995 back at base camp. What was the thought process behind the green energy crystals? For every other flaw, I can understand the purpose of its inclusion, but there is no way anyone looked at this and said, yeah, that's entertaining. These green crystals litter the desert, don't respawn, and are placed in fragments, which means you can miss a sliver even if you slide into the larger portion. Taking into account the preceding trilogy, there's always been some sort of MacGuffin scavenger hunt during the final 10th of the game. These being Prime 1's Chozo artifacts, Prime 2's Sky Temple keys, and Prime 3's energy cells. Difference being, those are special collectibles and not an arbitrary bar to fill up. This irks me because the answer was right there. The desert shrines could have posed as challenge rooms to earn 6 special keys or whatever. It's not a perfect solution by any means, though at least it sounds enjoyable. Ironically, collecting enough of the crystals grants you a radar that points you in the direction of new deposits. But it doesn't even work in the shrines! The last bit of green energy crystals I needed for 100% was here in this tiny stash. Want to know who else this was the last bit for? Apparently everyone! Concluding verdict, this is as dry a mechanic as the desert it's located in.
Are we being too literal?
No, you fool. We're following orders. We were told to comb the desert, so we're combing it.
Found anything yet? Nothing yet, sir! How about you? Not a thing, sir! What about you guys? We ain't found shit!
Metroid Prime 4 preserves much of the feel of the original trilogy. In fact, I believe it played it a little too safe. A majority of the abilities in this entry are rehashes of earlier ones, with the only significant changes being mote bombs and tether grappling. And unfortunately, the fresh abilities that are present didn't see a near enough love for how novel their concepts are to the series. Luckily, I did find myself loving the puzzles, which are on par with those from the previous games. And combat was another area that was quite fun. The different elemental beams are nothing new, but just as satisfying as Prime 1's variants. Last and very much least, screw the green energy crystals. Aside from some truly questionable choices, this is 100% a Metroid Prime mechanically, though not much beyond that. It's fun as expected, though not terribly innovative, acquiring a gameplay rating of 5 out of 10. Well, this is a section I never saw myself discussing in depth for a Metroid game. So, how are the characters in Prime 4?
Well done. No, my baby. This is our moment. Coming back. Yes, sir, Sarge.
Wrong game, dude. Boys, get this eyesore out of my sight. Honestly, I can't blame anyone for noticing the similarities between Halo's and Metroid's military members. Both are in to be your chummiest of bros that exist to show the player how awesome and powerful the main character is. This results in them having a more comedic role since the average soldier is far less threatening than a 7-foot-tall cybernetically enhanced man in titanium armor.
I don't think so. I'm driving.
Yeah? It's kind of the same thing in Prime 4. These guys are going to be weaker than the powerhouse that is Samus Aran, duh, and so the story presents that through their more lighthearted nature. I felt like the game did a good job at separating the squad's tone by position. Characters like an engineer or private are the immature ones, while others like the sniper or android pilot keep their composure. As for Duke, a sergeant, he fits more so in the latter category when he's not going on about.
Piece of cake. Red velvet cake.
I don't mind a little bit of whimsy. My problem with the Federation squad is actually how bland they are in regards to the main story. This matters because the game wants you to care about these guys, especially towards their sacrifice at the end of the game. Yet, in practice, Tokabi is the only member who gets some semblance of a fleshed out character, one that parallels Samus at that. Unsurprisingly, I ended up loving this guy. He has an interesting enough backstory, notable aspirations, and a relatable struggle. That's right, guys, I too am a seasoned bounty hunter for the military. Don't be too shocked now. Although, that wasn't the only reason his character interactions worked for me. Tokabi's personality also meshed well with Samus's utter lack of words. There, I said it. The side characters are not the problem, Samus is.
It's strange. My words flow so easily around you.
Come on, Samus, remain nonchalant. You're a badass bounty hunter.
Samus, respectfully, I can hear your thoughts right now.
Ah, shit. It's the psychic suit, isn't it, Duke?
Yes, also the name's Tokabi. Rieger Tokabi.
Ah, cool. So, when are you giving me that missile expansion? Samus, you are not being mysterious or stoic. You're being an asshole. It wouldn't even matter how well they write the supporting cast, because the Chosen One herself doesn't want anything to do with them. Now, whenever they're saying anything stupid, her silence can be funny, but when they ask questions or say anything directly to her, the most you can expect is a slight nod. Oddly enough, the troopers are fine, dare I say delightful, when chatting amongst themselves. Take the two more annoying characters, Mackenzie and Armstrong. When talking to Samus, Mackenzie is either nervous or nerds out all over my Lamorne tech. Pause. Meanwhile, Armstrong gets a little carried away fangirling constantly over Samus. Then you witness their interactions with other members of the group. And what's that? They're normal people? Suddenly, Mackenzie manages to put a smile on my face and Armstrong gains a personality outside of master level glazing.
That's 300 push-ups, you know that, right?
Yeah. Why? How many can you do?
I don't know. 4?
4 sets ain't bad.
No, 4 push-ups. I do them in sets of 1. Take my time.
Same goes for the other 3 members too. Between View995 confirming that he finds firing guided missiles to be fun, and Mackenzie comparing Tokabi to a mech while giving him first aid, these do plenty to improve the characterizations of those you're stranded with. Like, what do you mean View995 gets his memory wiped after sensitive missions? And Duke wanting to advocate against that happening is pretty wholesome. Heck, there's even references to previous games such as Norian from Prime 3 or the Currency Suguru from the Metroid manga. And what's even crazier than the subtle lore drops is that only a third of these conversations made it into the final release. That's like 30 minutes of unused dialogue here, which sucks because that includes my personal favorite interaction in the game.
But the next time we need to clear a room full of space pirates? What if you burst through the wall, take them all by surprise, and then I came in behind you and lit them up?
An excellent idea. I would be able to provide you with plenty of cover.
Exactly.
And what if I announced my arrival with an appropriate statement? I imagine that would confuse them further.
Big time. What would you say?
What about good morning?
Nice. But what if it was something catchier like, rise and shine?
Perfect. The next time I burst into a room of space pirates and light them up, I will say, rise and shine.
So cool. I can't wait to try it.
Nor I. Now we just need to seek out a room full of space pirates.
The base camp dialogue is what got me invested in my ragtag group of galactic misfits, not the main story, and that's bad. If Samus actually responded and said words with, oh, I don't know, her mouth, then I would have found her attachment to them by the finale believable. And if done well, it could have even been a boon in Samus's own characterization. This was a missed opportunity to explore how she perceives the average individual or personal growth from her interactions with them. And it might be a bit of a reach, but I think I can extend this same problem to Sylux. For the first time in Metroid history, the antagonist is a human. That's gotta mean something for Samus.
I know it means something for me. Come here, baby Sylux. Mwah.
Alright, that's enough out of you, Hunter, you freak. No, dude, that's not the Hunter we all know and love. What do you mean by that? Also, we do not love him. Open your eyes, dude! He has a formality Metroid strapped to him. That's gotta be like taking his mind over or something. Oh, that's what that is. I thought he had a tumor. By the end of the game, I was left wondering whether Samus feels conflicted or not about having a fellow human carry such intense, unbridled hatred towards her. It was disappointing to see such sparse engagement between them. Here's a random thought. Have Samus open up, not a lot, but a bit, to one of or all the Federation troopers about this concern partway through the narrative. You can make her feel human without going full-blown other M. I know, crazy. What's up? You want me to analyze your little character as well? Aw, that's sweet, buddy. I would if you had anything of substance to talk about. Look, I admire what Retro was going for with Sylux. Was it the right direction for a character we've been waiting over a decade to learn about? Probably not. But to explain what I mean, let me sum up what we do know. Before Sylux became Mr. Evil Angry Man, he was a commanding officer for the Galactic Federation. This is where his flashback scene kicks off. During a critical advance against space pirate forces, he's given the order to hold position and await backup from a certain well-known bounty hunter. But Sylux isn't the brightest soldier in the bunch and believes in the philosophy of go big or go home, so he charges forth. Yeah, this plays out about as you'd expect, and Sylux dives into a ditch as shallow as his writing while his entire squad gets absolutely atomized. The ever so fashionably late Samus then arrives, neutralizes the threat with a single charge shot, again, and like the diva she is, offers her hand to the broken commander. It's an ironic twist of fate for Sylux. Does he regret disobeying orders and recklessly charging in? Is he emotionally scarred by the loss of his team? Will he start on the path of improvement? So much for that. He's an asshole too. Forget about learning a valuable lesson. Bro blames everything on his savior. In Sylux's eyes, Samus stole his moment of glory, tarnished his dignity, and caused his entire squad to perish by being late. And he's kinda got a point. That laser was definitely firing whether he advanced or not. It's not all too often you see irredeemable villains nowadays, but we got one right here. Weirdly enough, I dig it. It's a nice change of pace from morally gray characters. After all, the tragic or sympathetic antagonists usually have some sort of line they aren't willing to cross. It helps keep them grounded. Alternatively, a villain not bound by those ethical limitations, such as Sylux, will do whatever is deemed necessary to see their desires through. His deep-seated feelings of inadequacy and envy push him to the extremes. I mean, just think about it for a moment. Sylux literally began mind-controlling a rival faction to raid, steal, and kill those who were formerly his allies. Dude's got zero chill. I'm really hoping there's more to his story because what we have is a good foundation, but just a foundation. In general, Metroid is not a game series known for its complex character writing. Therefore, it always catches my interest when they do attempt to expand upon the galaxy and its inhabitants. First things first, Samus continues to be a certified badass without saying a word. Yet this works against her in a setting where she's surrounded by people. It's an awkward decision that makes her come off as unreasonably distant or outright rude. Surprisingly, the Federation troopers somehow surpassed my expectations. It's oddly their interactions with Samus that did more harm than good. And then there's my boy Sylux, who had plenty of potential. I love me an irredeemable villain, but he needed increased screen time. If Metroid Prime wants to start introducing a larger cast, they cannot do this weird half-in, half-out deal. It's either commit or remove the side cast completely. I applaud them for trying a new approach though, and am willing to give Metroid Prime 4 a passable character rating of 5 out of 10. Similar to the gameplay, the enemies native to Viros have the mechanical sense of the previous entries. Whether it be alien fauna or foreign machinery, there is an excellent range of shit to chuck nuclear warheads at.
So you have chosen death.
There's enemies that take advantage of close quarters, those that use projectiles, and others that require a specific item to overcome. However, there's a glaring issue here that I intend to uncover, because for some reason, the list of adversaries feels smaller than ever before. Yet, on paper, Metroid Prime 4 has some of the most enemy variety. First, let's take a look at the extensive list of passive creatures that don't actively attack Samus on sight. From species of plants, birds, and lizards to critters like ants, beetles, and worms, Viros is abundant in the nature department. The most beautiful scene in Fury Green follows soon after Samus gets teleported there. The sheer volume of biodiversity showcased in those initial few rooms flaunts Viros' ecosystem, making it seem truly alive. Then you realize you've seen 80% of the creatures in Fury Green. No exaggeration, 8 of the 14 enemies in the forest biome are non-aggressive. This trend continues until 26 out of 76 enemy entries in your logbook are harmless. Don't get me wrong though, I absolutely love when games enrich their settings with bonus natural life. Part of the charm of exploring an alien planet is witnessing its unique ecosystem. But when a whole third of the enemies are essentially background decorations, it shines a spotlight on the apparent lack of actual threats. Am I right or am I right? Next, let's examine the aggressive category of enemies. I have no qualms with the attack patterns, visual designs, or variety of foes that Samus encounters across her journey. Metroid has always had fodder enemies between bosses that pose minimal danger to the player. It's nothing new here. Plus, a positive about this game taking place in a distant galaxy is that every enemy is a new addition to the series. I dearly enjoyed running around and reading about the flora, fauna, and technology because it was new. It was refreshing. Although, as you'll hear me say multiple times during this section, the prominent issue is the balance of which ones you fight. You might have heard people assert that you only battle Grievers and Cybots. And you want to know where that complaint came from? Oh, I wonder if it's the fact that there's 4 variations of Grievers and 5 models of Cybots. Metroid Prime 4 has a huge variancy problem where common creatures will have numerous biome-specific forms. Though don't take my word for it, allow me to swiftly list them. There are 2 types of gas spore, 3 types of Shren, 4 types of Griever, 2 types of Dartwing, 3 types of maintenance tank, 2 types of Lemorne turret, and last 5 types of Cybot. 14 entire enemies that are variations on their base counterpart, and that's not even counting the non-aggressive ones like crawlers that also have 5 forms. I'll admit that a few behave distinctly different between types, such as the Maul Grievers that swarm you when alarmed by missiles or other loud noises. But that's a minority, as most are near identical with a slight alteration in design. Moving on to the elite enemies, or mini-bosses and bosses, these are all fantastic. The former makes great use of Samus's arsenal along with having neat gimmicks in general. The Flight MCU drone controls all these little tiny guys and it's all like, oh my god, how am I gonna disable its energy shield? Then you remember your control beam, which has been gathering dust, and use it to swerve through bots and electric spheres. Easy peasy. There's also the Behemoth fight, which is like a miniature bullet hell as he spits fireballs everywhere and launches you into walls with shockwaves. Yeah, I know you can trivialize this fight by shooting its eyes with the eye shot, but we at 100% Hunter live for the thrill of battle. And it's definitely not because I didn't know that during the fight. No, of course not. Though my favorite mini-boss by far is the Snow Wolf Pack in Ice Belt. Right as Samus is trekking over the snowfield, she gets ambushed by an onslaught of vicious wolves. To make it out alive, you have to pace your limited ammunition while strafing between lunges because they just keep coming! Well, until Tokabi appears 3.5 minutes later to rescue your metallic Maximus. And damn, these guys hit like mantis shrimp hyped up on space cocaine, so dying is actually on the table. However, bosses were the true highlight of Prime 4's monster roster. Abarax, the prologue's boss, is a wonderful introduction to free fire and strafing. I'd have to double check, but I think this is the most mechanically distinct introductory boss among the Prime series. It's at least more complex than 1 and 2. Prime 4's bosses have decent breadth in attacks and designs, but share similar common core issues with each other. These being 1, the game's generosity with item drops. For real, they can hit hard, but then I'm back on full health seconds later because of how much free energy and ammunition they throw at you. Omega Griever was an exception, and put me through the ringer, but I never dipped below half health for any of the bosses before it. And problem 2, the lack of ability prevalence during the battles. One thing I wish the bosses did better was make use of Samus's extended arsenal past her offensive upgrades. I'm talking abilities like Grapple, Spider Ball, Power Bomb, Psychic Glove, etc. Silas's 2 fake-out boss fights are great not only because they're fast-paced, but also because they utilize Samus's tools. His first fight requires Morph Ball bombs to disrupt his new obsession with Spinjitzu, and the second one involves grappling around to avoid electricity electricity. Yet, aside from Karvix needing the control beam, the other bosses simply don't do enough to switch things up for the player. Here's just a few concepts I came up with to address this. Mind you, these are not fully thought through. I don't take any responsibility for how bad this fight would actually turn out to be. Okay, Zelios is an easy fight where you destroy metal plates to reveal the vulnerable orb in the center. Focus fire on that weak point and boom, the boss is dead. You're also quite limited in what abilities you have access to during the boss with how early it is. So let's focus on those plates for a moment. What if only a couple were cracked and could be pried off with the psychic glove after damaging them a bit? Hell, you can add that these plates are made of Viros crystals if you want an explanation as to why psychic glove can magically yank them off. In response, Zelios does its green energy beam attack, causing a generator's core cover to get blown off within the room. You must use a morph ball bomb to short circuit said generator, mirroring the ones you've powered up before, which then overloads Zelios, making him vulnerable. This mechanic combines his current moveset, the upgrades you have at that point, and the knowledge you've gained from within Volt Forge. Not to mention, it would make the fight loads more engaging. Or let's go even more creative and choose Omega Griever, because at that point in the game, Samus has access to a far wider selection of abilities. For this, I want to exploit the nests that the creatures have built within the mines. Alright, so the Omega Griever fight begins as normal, up until the point where it leaps onto a cavern wall, busting it open. This time, though, it burrows through a wall and you have to enter a narrow labyrinth created by normal-sized Grievers to chase after it. While rolling through the tunnels with Morph Ball, either the Omega Griever or smaller ones can be punching holes in the walls to attack or grab Samus. Therefore, you use a combination of Morph Ball Bomb, Boost Ball, and Spider Ball to navigate the dangerous terrain and reach another open space. Again, the boss's attacks can stay the same. I primarily want to tweak how you interact with it during the fight to make it a little more interesting. Like, imagine you're duking it out with Keratos, and rather than baiting him into ramming a wall, you use Psychic Lasso to swing him into them. Unloading my weapons on a boss is cool and all, but outmaneuvering them with my other upgrades would really make Samus a force to be reckoned with. And it sucks that boss battles aren't more involved because they have phenomenal moments in them. Fighting Fenoros while using his body as a platform, blowing up Varnus with a power bomb, and the Omega Griever playing dead are amazing moments. Matter of fact, amazing is an apt word to describe Sylex's final showdown. His fight is separated into 3 phases. I fight for my friends, Ridley 2.0, and Straight Peak. Phase 1 is by leaps and bounds the worst portion of this entire battle, as it includes the entire Federation squad in it too. This could be neat if they weren't literally walking game overs. For instance, Sylex's lightning strikes can be easily avoided by walking into the area that isn't marked by certain doom. Now if only my team got the memo.
Why are you like this?
Yeah, that's right, you just watched 3 of these dumbasses get down simultaneously, accompanied by a second barrage of thunderbolts killing them off. Correct me if I'm wrong, this isn't a skill issue, this is evil! Rather than raising the stakes of any battle, it's just making the troopers a liability. Like, I'm trying to save the galaxy, not be a babysitter. Luckily, the subsequent 2 phases are just Samus and Sylex, meaning they're perfect. Phase 2 has Sylex dragging you through a wormhole in a freefall like Prime 3's Ridley. There is no locking on in this unstable space, so accurate aim is essential. Or just use missiles. The attacks aren't anything too flashy here, but hey, Control Beam is relevant again, so I'll take it. Eventually, in the most what-the-hell fashion of all time, the 2 of you exit into, no joke, a floating disc in the middle of space. This is probably the first time since a rock clocked Samus in the helmet that I laughed out loud at a Metroid game. Bro legit chose Final Destination, no items, bounty hunter only. And you can tell he means business when he actively generates a miniature black hole that can only be overcome with sheer willpower. Also, seeing Sylex use his lockjaw was so cool. And then you watch the Mad Lad roll around with an energy tank as well. Wait, why has he got an energy tank? Oh, he got it from the bar at the top of my screen. Oh, goodness gracious. That scoundrel has absconded with my vitality capsule. Apprehend that rogue at once.
Target located. Affirmative, sir. That's the bitch that slapped my hand 20 years ago. Is he dangerous? Let me confirm. Are you dangerous? Highly likely, sir.
Dang, someone's obsessed, am I right, guys? Anyways, this brings our logbook's mini-boss total to 7, and our boss total to 10. Gather round, fellow achievement hunters and collectible gatherers, I will now lay bare to thee Prime 4's critical flaw in enemy implementation. Samus's logbook in Metroid Prime 4 has a sum of 76 enemy scans. That's a lot. Nevertheless, as we've learned, there's much going on behind the scenes that makes that number rather unimpressive. From those 76 combat entries, I must deduct the 26 passive creatures, the 14 variants not including their base form, the 7 mini-bosses, and the 10 boss-adjacent scans. This brings my personal calculations to a final count of 19 true enemies. Indeed, only 19 common foes divided amongst 6 individual maps. And that, friends, is why even with the sizable enemy count in the logbook, it typically feels like you're dealing with the same monsters time and time again. Metroid Prime 4 is a mixed bag in their creature features. There's no doubt that Viros is brimming with wildlife, which is awesome. Furthermore, normal enemies and mini-bosses were up to par with the previous games, both in their designs and simple mechanics. Instead, the glaring issue this time was the disparity between the enemy types you'll encounter and their literal quantity in the logbook. Also, bosses were an absolute joy to square off against in their grand presentation and entertaining combat. Although, I think this could have been enhanced wonderfully by involving a wider scope of Samus's equipment in the battles themselves. The arm cannon is Samus's trusty sidekick, but it's not all she's got. As for Sylux himself, we got a terrible Phase 1 that's quickly overshadowed by the excellent gameplay offered by the following 2 phases. Metroid Prime 4 has an abundance of things to love about its enemies, countered by a few unmistakable drawbacks that hold it back at an enemy rating of 6 out of 10. Hooray, we're halfway through. I really enjoyed criticizing my childhood favorite game series of all time. No, I'm not crying. Can't you see the bountiful whimsy written on my face? But hey, we can drama bond together, so make sure to like, subscribe, and tell me your favorite boss from the series and why. What's that? You're not gonna do any of the above? Oh, well, I guess you wouldn't mind if I use my sidekick hand to pick up this sidekick Glock and shoot a sidekick bullet into your sidekick!
I come in peace, humans. I am humbly searching for the chosen one to save our kind from the brink of extinction. That might have been all our fault. Oh my glorb. Jerry, we ran over another one. Subscribe or Miles McKenzie will become your paralysis demon.
Since its conception, Metroid has always been a series popular for isolation and relying on no one but yourself. This is reflected in its gorgeous environments that reinforce the looming sense of solitude. For me, personally, that loneliness came from the cramped level design. Prime 4's best locations are the ones that preserve that isolated atmosphere. Every area in the game, outside the most realistic depiction of a desert ever, has its charms, and was, at worst, just okay. Fury Green is a sprawling forest that ends up feeling like a tutorial-specific locale. Other than the base camp, there is little reason to backtrack here. Talon Overworld was small as well, but even that one had a mandatory upgrade that you could find upon a revisit. Flare Pool was probably the most forgettable main area in Prime 4, with its lack of identity and extremely linear map. Plus, it's also home to that one scene where Samus's bike gets very much eaten, and not even 5 minutes later, she's popping wheelies out of an exploding facility. Coincidentally, the most underutilized areas in Metroid Prime 1 were also the forest and lava biome. Like, okay, bro, I get it, Prime 1 was goated, but copying its flaws is a little far, isn't it? Oh well, with those 2 out of the way, let me illustrate why I loved the other 3 far more. Volt Forge and Ice Belt are basically the duo that a majority of people are going to agree are the best areas in the game. Both see Samus trudging through powered-down installations all on her lonesome with little to no interference from the talkative troopers. While still quite linear, these 2 at least nailed the isolated atmosphere. Ice Belt in particular was brilliantly executed in its environmental storytelling, eerie set pieces, and evolving geography. The point of interest in Ice Belt is a frozen-over research facility. After meeting Tokabi, you're tasked with getting the central elevator back online by powering up the building's generator. The path to the heart of the facility is unsettlingly silent, apart from the occasional wildlife that has taken up residency in the abandoned space. However, there's an interesting history to fill in the gaps as you descend. Throughout the medical and science sectors are loads of Lamorne recovery pods, cryogenically frozen grievers, and data logs detailing impossible experiments. One of the cryopods can even be shattered by Samus, to which you hear this unnerving sound emitted by the deceased griever. This sound is a distorted version of the ones living grievers make, showing that their psychic shrills persevere beyond death. That's chilling. Later down the line, Samus enters the surgery bay where furniture and devices are in complete disarray. Shutters halted mid-activation, stretchers repurposed into makeshift operating tables, and a non-functional recording drone alludes to a struggle. Matter of fact, a terminal later in the level reveals that researchers managed to temporarily revert a Griever back into a Lemorne before going to ruin. Though the coolest part of the level is when you reactivate the generator and return to the surface. The entire place roars to life. The soft icy blue of the rooms is replaced by a vibrant orange and the pipes burst as the facility defrosts. Speaking of defrosting, the dormant Lemorne pods also thaw, which, as you might have guessed from the experiments going on, is a terrible outcome. No longer is the research facility quietly empty. It's full of bursting machinery and violent monsters in every corridor. A huge change in scenery that makes your journey back up feel special. I'm gonna be so real with you guys. Coolest moment in the game. And Volt Forge pulls a similar stunt with its Viola production factory. Every time you turn on a tower's generator, the manufacturing belt of the structure changes from unmoving and dim to active and bright. This switches up the energy of the location, but also the available puzzles. And as much as I don't care about Flare Pool, even its scenery is altered by Samus's actions following the destruction of the green energy cannon. Suddenly, rooms you've already been through either become inaccessible, covered in debris, or full of malfunctioning devices. So while Prime 4 doesn't incorporate non-linearity into its maps, the geographical and visual shifts make backtracking a bit more favorable. And then there's the Great Mines, which falls into the same category of location as Flare Pool, where people hate it due to being a super Federation Trooper-oriented level. Yet, I came out of it with the opposite view and liked its gradual isolation. Yes, the initial 2/3 of the level have your team present, but the diminishing numbers as you progress is a fun twist on Prime's solitude. I knew that their heroic sacrifices were bluffs and they'd probably be fine by the end of the level, but the tension created by their absence was real. You go from having allies attached to your hip 1 minute to this. An odd comparison, but it reminded me a lot of Dead Space 2, actually. That game also has you interact with people over the course of the mission. And it's precisely because there are other living people that the isolation felt when you're separated from them is amplified. So thank God that the Federation troopers don't show up again until after the boss fight, because the final stretch of the Great Mines is daunting. Now, it's clear that love the locations or hate them, they are no doubt straightforward. Here's a map from Metroid Prime 1, and another, and another, and another. Can you even draw a straight line through any of these? No, not really. What makes a Metroidvania is exploration. So why is every location a one-way trip from point A to point B? I've gotten lost more times at my college campus than having played Metroid Prime 4, because just keep going straight is somehow a viable strat. If I'm not getting cock-blocked by mock locks, then I'm not playing a Metroid. To add insult to injury, entering an area occurs the same way every time. In Prime 1, there are multiple entrances to any main location, which makes backtracking meaningful since you end up in a new part of an old map. But in Prime 4, you just go through the desert entrance to the exact same spot every time. To be fair, there are numerous unlockable shortcuts that make traveling easier. Fury Green's cargo cannon, Volt Forge's maintenance chutes, Ice Belt's gondola, Flare Pool's transport tunnel, and the Great Mine's massive elevator. These nifty time-saving routes were perfectly placed at points where backtracking would otherwise be a slog, so a commendable effort there. But is commendable enough to earn a high score? Let's see. You're joking! Do I seriously have to discuss it? Yo, my family hostage? Like that's gonna make me talk. You wouldn't dare! Releasing paid DLC for a Metroid game? I'll talk then. It's time to talk about that despicable desert. You know, for a place called Soul Valley, it's pretty devoid of any soul. But no, there's 3 noticeable aspects that made the desert a bit of a flop. Well, ignoring the fact that it's very anti-Metroid at its core. Problem 1 is that gameplay with the Viola just isn't thrilling after a while. Boosting and sliding into crystals is satisfying, but the combat is dull. Hold down a button, lock onto enemies, and a disc obliterates everything in sight. Not to mention that the boss of the desert is easily the worst in the game. Does this look exhilarating to you? Problem 2 is the lack of limited time events to spice things up. There's no day-night cycle, nor are there any random encounters that could help liven up the desolate expanse. Okay, there is a wild Tokabi here and there, but I suppose I just want more of that. Going back to what I said about the space pirates, here's an opportune area to have haphazardly thrown together pirate strongholds that Samus must raid. And problem number 3, no fast travel options. Apart from Viola Boost and the plants that provide fuel for said boost, driving across Soul Valley becomes monotonous. Luckily, it doesn't take too terribly long, but granting Viola a mid-game upgrade to warp to Lemorne shrines or main locations would have been real nice. I literally thought that was the direction we were headed in when I got the teleporter patches for the first time. I was like, oh hey, look at that, I can finally fast travel. Yeah, I was apparently stupid to think that. And I mean, the Lemorne already have teleportation technology. A teleporting motorcycle is perfectly lore consistent. Probably. Wait, as I'm writing this script, I became aware of another poor decision. Why does the Viola have, like, no modifications at all? Except for a larger boost gauge or driving over lava, there's nothing else. Let me fire mini nukes out of my motorcycle, damn it! Samus even boots up the habitat decimating motorcycle factory, so it's not like she cares about harming the planet. Which I'm noticing is a trend with her, huh? That said, the desert isn't all bad. It does have its positives. While I would rather it be taken out entirely, I am glad that the desert had lore regarding its existence as a result of ecological overexploitation by the Lemorne. It truly adds to the barren isolation the desert was going for, and I love it. Adding to that, the scattered Federation debris and Lemorne shrines are integrated perfectly into the sandy dunes. It's interesting to note that this is a free roam area that hides its point of interest below eye level as opposed to towering landmarks that are the main locations. And bonus points for the shrines being more than obligatory challenge dungeons. It seemed like these were actual places of worship and not simply built because Samus needs an upgrade. So with as many pros and cons as green crystals, let's see how the ratings fare. The biomes of Prime 4 are conceptual retreads of earlier ones, but had enough distinct set pieces to distance themselves, especially in the case of Volt Forge. Environmental storytelling was also nothing to scoff at, enriching Viros's lore. Regrettably though, the locations are so unabashedly linear, it's crazy. However, that linearity was partially addressed by the wide-ranging environmental changes that made revisiting them a refreshing experience. I appreciated the abundance of well-placed shortcuts for backtracking too. And then there was the Grand Desert, which came at the cost of a tight-knit world in order to add tedious exploration with not a whole lot to do. Metroid Prime 4's areas have their charms, while simultaneously sacrificing a lot of what made the previous ones in the series stand out. Accordingly, I'm compelled to give the game a mixed location rating of 5 out of 10. Whether you've seen the trailers, the promotional material, or the game itself, one thing is definitive. Prime 4 is the best looking Metroid game ever! Skyboxes, lighting, models, textures, HDR, general polish! The art direction is stunning. What's more, this game is crafted with the Switch 1 compatibility in mind. I can't imagine how much further they could have taken it if it was a Switch 2 exclusive. Gotta hand it to Retro, both this and Prime 1 Remastered are two Nintendo games that would immediately come to mind if I said eye candy. Is it the best looking game ever? I'd have to go with no, but I never expected to see a Metroid cutscene look like this. Alright, any more Glaze and Duke will start getting excited, so I should probably stop. Let's first take a look at the latest iteration of Samus' suit and weaponry. The attention to detail for Samus' power beam and elemental shots is meticulously elaborate. Just like those big-ass words I put together, you like that? The classic power beam has traded its yellow lights for purple, obviously due to it now being imbued with psychic energy. This even carries over to the control beam, which causes Samus' entire left hand to radiate with that very same energy. Another thing I love is how when switching between each of the shot types, the whole arm cannon reverberates as very various pieces shift around. Take literally just the front of the arm cannon, which opens up diagonally for the fire shot, vertically for the ice shot, or horizontally for the thunder shot. Additionally, if you've ever played Metroid Prime 1, you'll observe that charging an elemental shot has effects reminiscent of one's elemental beams. Whether that be fire shot spewing embers, ice shot freezing over, or thunder shot releasing static electricity around the gun. And another very small detail I noticed is that this tiny light remains purple regardless of which weapon you swap to. That likely explains why the arm cannon shoots psychic normal shots even when using an elemental weapon. A seriously neat detail. Switching focus to Samus's armor, it's gotten quite the renovation as well. Borrowing the slimmer frame of Dread, Prime 4's Varia suit has more human proportions with smaller pauldrons. Finally, a normal Samus that looks a little less like her arms are being ripped off. Now to fix the morph ball. Actually, the space pirate's got that. The new Viola suit looks fantastic as well. I'm a big fan of the alien-looking pauldrons and lights on the chest that resemble other Lamorne devices. And a fun fact I learned is that this takes inspiration from real bike racing suits. The red exterior, black interior, and purple accents create such a pleasing color combination even if they're not really complementary. Though the Viola Icy suit is rather lazy for the sole fact that it just slaps on a few lights along the legs and shoulders, which is boring. The fruit suit though, sick as hell. White and gold coupled with a darker base is visually majestic. The Legacy suit definitely lives up to its name with its prismatic lights and glimmering waves that flow along the surface of the armor. Hold on just a hot second, where's the suit's 100% necessary derriere dent? They can't keep getting away with this, that's the Federation's ass.
No, that's my enemy's ass. What?
Sorry, I thought you were going to say the line, you know?
Oh, right.
Like a hunter using Shine Spark, I'm gonna quickly speedrun some other clever details about Samus's suit. The new Morph Ball's design has increased complexity with added line work and depth between the grooves. I especially grew to love how appealing the other two suits' Morph Ball variations are. Moreover, I think I prefer this game's take on the Spider Ball. Showing the treads on the armor itself looks wonderful. As for Samus's visor, Retro went all out on the details. There's unique water-based effects such as rain, steam, dripping water, snow, and frost that can appear on the visor. Other effects I noticed were things like glare from light sources, dust from vents, goo from monsters, blur from holograms, or static from electric shocks. Though what particularly delighted me most was the update to Samus's facial reflection from her own shots. They decided to go the extra mile and add realistic squinting to the animation. What? It's the small things like this that make a Metroid Prime game a treat to behold. So if nothing else, I'm glad they at least maintained this standard of quality. Enough about Samus though, what about the other monsters on Viros? Much of the wildlife and ordinary enemies are decent. The basic enemy designs of Prime 4 are very safe for the most part. You got shit like winged lizard? What part of this screams lizard? Bristlewort? Sounds like a Pikmin enemy name. Cool design though. Let's try another one. Oh, Popcrawler. That sounds absolutely adorable. Ew, what is that thing? Facehugger ass alien? One enemy that I found both cute and comedic were the maintenance tanks. Oh my god, I just love these little guys. They're so cute. Their rolling ability is described in a Lamorne terminal to activate certain devices, aka the boost ball spinners. Such a silly little tidbit of world building that I thought I'd share. It really helps highlight the Lamorne design philosophy behind their mechanical creations. Conversely, bosses had generally incredible designs, not lackluster ones. Fascinating creatures, such as a cross between a flytrap and Jar Jar Binks, a plasma globe, possibly the cutest little guy on this planet, or a lava leviathan. And while it's a shame more wasn't done with the concept, I vibed with the Guardians sharing a Metroid core in their appearances, even if it gave Abarax a very prominent set of wubble bubbles. It's also noteworthy that the final key boss, the Omega Griever, doesn't have a Metroid core. Kinda creepy knowing that it killed the previous Guardian before Samus arrived with its own brute strength. And the exposed Lamorne skull during specific attacks didn't make it any cuddlier. Furthermore, the Guardians each had memorable death animations that served as rewarding conclusions to their battles. Carvix blooms into many flowers, Zelios creates metal shards resembling magnetic waves, Keratos forms an aurora overhead, and Fenoros transforms into a scorched platform. Even Gravanax, the Guardian killed by the Omega Griever, had their own symbol in the boss arena, an arrangement of shiny Viros crystals. Looking back at it now, the Omega Griever definitely slimed out Gravanax for providing the crystals that turned its race into a bunch of monsters. Yeah, exactly like that! Rookie mistake, should've read my logbook entry. Touché. Though if you're wondering where Prime 4's art direction shines brightest, it's gonna have to be the locations. These beautiful vistas help connect the world of Viros from afar. For instance, taking a stroll through Fury Green, you can spot various key points from different sections of the jungle. Here from the cargo launcher, I can point out the Infinity Bridge, Cliffside Gate, Ravine Overlook, and even Viros Tower on the horizon. And swapping over to Soul Valley, you can see the Life Tree, Towers, Snowy Peaks, Magdrada Volcano, and the Great Elevator from just about anywhere. Helps the world feel a little more interconnected. Whereas the remaining areas don't connect visually to their neighboring ones, their skyboxes were still equally breathtaking. Things like Volt Forge being engulfed in a perpetual storm, Ice Belt's boundless mountains, Flare Pool's imposing cannon, and the Great Mine's main shaft. There's always something eye-catching in Prime 4's open spaces. I should also mention that the first impressions of each place are still astonishing. I know people worried about NPCs ruining such an integral moment, but I am pleased to say that there is still a sense of wonder upon entering a new environment. On top of that, the Lemorne story has been interwoven into the landscapes too. Their 3 periods of history gave rise to diverse structures and landmarks. The ancient era of the Lemorne civilization marked their initial settling on Viros, which is seen in the Temple of Memories architecture. The Machine era is when the cargo launcher, green energy cannon, and Viola assembly towers were constructed. And the Psychic era began the implementation of psychic devices strewn across many locations. You'd recognize many sites built during this period of time, including but not limited to the entirety of the Great Mines, the Master Teleporter, the Shrines, and the research facility in Ice Belt. It's so dang interesting to see the architectural direction displayed by each era. Ancient era buildings coexist with nature, the Machine era's inventions clash against the environment, and the Psychic era's structures are a blend of both. And setting aside the discussion around whether the troopers' inclusions are welcome or not, I thought their personalized armor designs and body types defined them well. If anything, characters are skillfully expressive in their choreography, which conveys clear emotion even when their faces are obscured. It would have been completely acceptable to not see their faces a single time due to how flamboyant their gesturing was. Even Samus, for how stoic the game tried to make her, has emotional scenes. Also, I gotta talk about the movie quality cinematics, the intro, ending, and flashback. These are the big 3 that made people draw comparisons to Halo's cutscenes, and I can't blame them either because just look at these spectacles. I'm also relieved to see Retro go back to the lifelike version of Samus. Don't get me wrong, anime Samus is amazing too, but the more realistic appearance is suitably gritty, matching the darker tone of the Metroid series. I'm confident in saying that she's never looked better than she did in this moment. Overall, Metroid Prime 4 accomplished its objective of showing off what the Switch 2 is capable of. Cinematics are drop-dead gorgeous, and I hope to see more in the future sequels. Samus's signature beam and suit designs were equally striking, having several intricate details that live up to the previous titles. In fact, this iteration of the visor might have the most elaborate visual effects yet, with incredible attention to detail. Enemy designs were good as well. Standard, sure, but not bad in the slightest. I also had a soft spot for the locations, with their picturesque skyboxes, prominent set pieces, and lore incorporated into their environmental design. My main issue is that other parts of the game couldn't reach the same degree of care as the art direction. We had something special on our hands here. Once again, Retro has proven that they're masters of thoroughly immersive visuals, carrying Metroid Prime 4 to a perfect aesthetic rating of 10 out of 10. Oh, I'm sorry. Did my Aaron pods disconnect again? Damn it. Must be too outdated to connect to my Viola ICUP. I'm just too rich. Huh? What's this? A jukebox that drowns out the deafening sounds of a distant bygone era. And it tallies up my total miles? I've always wondered how much air pollution I was contributing to the atmosphere while playing Duck Hunt and pilfering sacred alien altars. That's right, we're talking about the amiibo first. No, not that one, this one. Haha, bet you didn't think I'd start the music section of the video with that. What can I say, I'm a man of many surprises. You never see it coming. Stop, we must address the Abrax in the room.
Oh, Dude, I'm not that fat.
Yes, you are. Anyways, the whole amiibo thing, not gonna lie, turned out to be the biggest nothing burger complaint of Prime 4's release. And it wasn't just the haters, no, it was the defenders too. I was double duped. On one hand, you had angry people saying that they locked unique desert music behind an amiibo. Utterly detestable. And on the other, you had people retorting with, oh, well, you can unlock the desert theme with 100% completion. Annoying, but a solid retort. Yeah, so that so-called desert theme never existed in the first place.
You lied to me.
I did no such thing!
You dirty boy.
The amiibo merely gives the viola a jukebox to play other tracks from the OST, and full completion unlocks nothing music related. That's about all I had to say regarding the amiibo controversy. It's not really that deep in the grand scheme, but my poor Metroid-shaped heart was crushed. For the first time in my 2-decade-long existence, the internet lied to me. Aside from that, I'm happy to report that Metroid Prime 4 has mostly good things to say about its immersive soundtrack. From the second you boot up the game, you're greeted by yet another banger main menu theme. Actually, there's a separate theme that plays between the first time you open the game and every consecutive time. I'm referring to the latter. It's a worthy homage to the original trilogy, combining their individual title screen themes along with 4's own into an amazing piece. You definitely feel the hype of a many-year-long wait coming to a close. This game's rendition of the Space Pirate theme was another wonderful surprise. It's a very cinematic take, and the looming growl that's present below the instrumental is the cherry on top. Definitely brings to mind a brutal space pirate. Though what makes this reimagining stand out especially is about a minute in, when the horns and choir are added to the song. The UTO Research Center is currently being overrun, and the sole person who can turn the tides in this moment is you, Samus. It's such a chaotic theme that even the vocals continuously change throughout, going from mid-pitch to high-pitched all the way down to low-pitch. I guess disorganized would be an apt descriptor, much like the ongoing raid itself. Following Samus's teleportation to Viros, Chrono Tower's theme plays next. The opening notes almost sound like a wind chime, and coupling that with the distant foghorn and escalating synth, this is one eerie song. It makes you sense the atmosphere of an unknown alien planet with its haunting yet almost greater-than-life melody. Plus, you already know that it comes with a prophecy free of charge. And is that music from Prime 2 I hear? Holy peak! Splinter Hive sounds the same as I remember. But where are those who share the memory? The rest of the location themes were also superbly composed. Fury Green's theme is enchanting and fits for being a Lamorne holy site with its light synth and graceful piano. Volt Forge's music is so in your face with an electric guitar and deep vocals that you can't help feeling the industrial might of the towers. Ice Belt has the classic high-pitched whistles that evoke a frozen landscape, along with a somber choir that reflects the horrors that went down there. Flare Pool utilizes chanting and powerful percussion, much like Magmore Caverns, to represent the intense volcanic environment. And Great Minds has remarkably ambient music that is joined by sporadic knocking to remind you that you are not alone.
I don't like being underground. You get buried alive. No one would ever know.
But those are just the region's standard themes. What ascends them beyond being simply great is that musical shifts accompany huge changes in the environment. These would be events such as turning on Volt Forge's generators or deactivating Flare Pool's boiler. The score ramps up in intensity as you either revive the dormant machinery or gain access to the rest of the site. This gets the player, me, psyched up as I get closer to my destination. And no area did this quite as masterfully as Ice Belts did. Reactivating the generator returns power to the frigid facility, causing the ice to thaw as rooms gradually heat back up. In response, the once hushed environment is instantly displaced with a dominant, triumphant tune. This is my favorite piece of music in the game. The cohesion between seeing the generator awaken in real time, feeling the controller vibrate, and hearing this bombastic theme was genuinely unreal. Hell, there's even the radio static sound of the Grievers mixed into the instrumental, acknowledging that they're no longer frozen in the past. You've effectively yanked an Arctic time capsule into the present, and now you gotta deal with it. Also, Takabe makes an alien reference.
Oh no, they're in the wall.
Moving on, the enemy battle music was awesome too. It did a lot to enhance the fights against Samus's foes, and even elite enemies had different soundtracks for each one. Cybots have a fast-paced techno theme, the Snow Wolf Pack has endless looped melody that mirrors the fight itself, and Behemoth has a bumbling instrumental. But I'm not here to talk about those, no one cares. I'm here to talk about my love-hate relationship with the Griever theme. If this bar here represented the runtime of the track, the ratio of love to hate would look a little something like this. And that's because every encounter ruptures your brain with psychic Griever shrills for the opening 10 seconds. Following that, it's pretty hype. Like the barks of the space pirate in their theme, it's an immersive concept. Problem is more often than not, killing them doesn't push past that 10-second mark. Utilizing the Griever static sound effect is cool, but goddamn is that concept sullied when it's the only part of the song I hear. It becomes annoying. Okay, this is gonna sound like I'm instantly contradicting myself, but there is one area where it's incredibly effective in building tension. And that's whenever you alert mall grievers with a loud noise in the Great Mines. Really adds to the dread of them burrowing straight to you. But if enemy themes were excellent, bosses were compositionally exceptional. Aberax plays heavily into the space pirate pattern of instrumentals, narrowing in on the explosive synthesizers. Carvix borrows the sound design from Flagra's theme. This, along with the goofy honks and maracas, bring out that exotic feel of this monstrous plant. Zelios was a personal favorite, with the kick-ass guitar riffs and scattered beeping noises that emphasize the mechanical components of this boss. Keratos' theme reminds me of Thardis, with its floaty, high-pitched tune. It adequately matches the force of him drifting around and crashing into icy walls. Fenoros preserves the chants from Flare Pool's other themes, while adding on brass to reinforce the sheer size and intensity of this scorching serpent. And the Omega Griever's theme is eerily alien-sounding, with the back-and-forth instrumental alluding to the ferocity and horrific implications of the creature. What had formerly been an intelligent life form, such as yourself, has become a grotesque monster devoid of rational thought. Fittingly enough, Varmus is the only true boss in the game without a unique theme. Huh? Who's Varmus? You're telling me you don't remember Varmus, the fat-ass sandfish? Ah, don't worry, it's only you, me, and everybody else. And fortunately, Sylux has one of the best themes in the game for his final boss fight. Phases 1 and 2 were alright, but Phase 3 leans into the cosmic scale of your climactic confrontation with this D1 hater. Truly an impeccable fight. Metroid Prime 4 as a series is known to have atmospheric or memorable OSTs, so where does the 4th entry fall into the rankings? Well, it starts off strong with main menu music that is pure nostalgia with its blend of the original trilogy's respective themes. Some might say it's even enough to bring a man to tears. Locational tracks were also incredible, amplifying what little atmosphere was present. To add to that, these very same locations had pieces that transformed the mood of the place after a major change, such as powering up the Ice Belt's generator. Alternatively, while elite enemy and mini-boss themes were fitting, the Griever theme in particular was traumatizing for its first 10 seconds. Though boss themes were perfect in both quality and appropriateness, they each had compositions tailored around their unique attributes. And like a billion bonus points for not giving Varmus its own theme. Fuck that fish. Oh, and while I'm at it, fuck the jukebox amiibo too. Get it out of here. Disgusting. Between the tracks I was and wasn't able to cover, it's clear that Metroid Prime 4 is right at home in the series, earning a commendable music rating of 9 out of 10. Metroid Prime 4 is a video game. Video games require a silly little resource known as money. Players like when money reflects the quality of game. Companies like when game costs as much money as possible. Thus, you end up in a scenario where there are two games, a 9 out of 10 product worth $40 and a 7 out of 10 product worth $70. Now, which sounds more enticing? we're obviously gonna go for option 3, the spin-off title no one asked for. I mean, I'll give it to you, but I should inform you, not even collectors go for this one. Cause it's so rare and hard to come by? Yeah, something like that. But no, returning to the first two options I mentioned, Metroid Prime 1 is quite a bit cheaper than 4, while delivering a Metroid experience that is true to the series. Metroid Prime 4 follows the current model of $60, $70 releases. Though credit where minimal credit is due, it didn't release with cut content DLC that spikes the price up to $90, so I'll take it. Question is, for Prime 4's 12 to 18 hours of content, does it justify the price tag? Oh boy, if that isn't the question that most AAA games have nowadays. At its core, Metroid is about obsessive hoarding. Samus may not be allowed to hunt bounties, but god damn it, she's gonna make a living stealing ancient relics. She is such a great role model. Hey, is that my wallet? Maybe if you stopped taking so many detours to isolated planets on the far reaches of space, you'd have enough for gas money. Put it down now. Samus, put down the wallet. Put it down! I swear, you act like you were raised by birds or something. Where was I? Oh, right, collectibles. Scattered across the land of Viros are oodles of puzzles and hidden goodies for the player to gather. These come in the forms of ammo expansions and energy tanks. If my math is mathing correctly, this can be divided into 48 missile expansions, 44 shot expansions, and 5 psychic power bomb expansions. Then add on the 14 energy tanks and 3 Viola boost tanks. They're nice bonuses for exploration and reward the player for utilizing their power-ups throughout the maps. Metroid Prime 4 even added convenient scout bots to each location that reveal the proximal positions of items on your map screen. Similar to the Elysium Observatory in Metroid Prime 3, this makes finding the more tedious collectibles much less of a hassle. Plus, to get this little fella up and running, you need the 4th to last mandatory upgrade, the Thunder Shot. And since it's that much of a late game ability, it won't hinder the early game exploration. But trust me, it is very nice for cleaning up what you couldn't find, because some of these guys are really hidden. The Scoutbot's seamless integration into the world as yet another byproduct of the Lemorne's machine era was appreciated as well. You know me, guys, I love my lore to be consistent. But not even collectibles were safe from a minute nitpick. They removed the jingle that plays when you're near an item. It's just gone. You know, the one that sounds like... What's left is empty silence, making them harder to find, sure, but also removing the minor dopamine hit you got when hearing the sound effect. You will be missed dearly. I'm having withdrawal. Another subset of collectibles are the optional upgrades for Samus. Beam combos make a reappearance from Primes 1 and 2, with a 2-tier system for the elemental shots. Unlike the Prime 1 versions, I found myself using this game's elemental beam combos far more. The utility was honestly on a whole new level. Super Thunder and Fire shots were absolute beasts on the battlefield, and while I didn't use the Super Ice shot as much, it still had its moments. Although they were an extreme downgrade in terms of one aspect: discovery. Prime 1 and 2's beam combos were not only optional boons to Samus's weaponry, they were also satisfying perks for seeking out secrets. I'm gonna focus on the first game because, frankly, I don't have footage of echoes, and I am a big lazy doo-doo head who ain't trying to do all that. In Metroid Prime 1, you could obtain the Wave Buster, Ice Spreader, and Flamethrower enhancements for the base beams. Difference being, there was a sense of gratification for acquiring these. The beam combos required you to collapse a massive tower, shatter the glass around a walkway, or turn off security in a pirate mining facility. Discovery for the Wave Buster meant solving a simple yet unique puzzle. Discovery for the Ice Spreader and Flamethrower meant paying attention to the corridors you passed through many times without a second thought. Either way, you were rewarded for investigating your surroundings. Shifting focus back to Prime 4, where can we expect to find its shot combos? Is it the payoff for beating a hidden mini-boss? Is it the reward for investigating every nook and cranny? Are there any distinct puzzles that must be overcome? No, no, and close, but a hard no. Instead, these valuable upgrades are located in the most painfully conspicuous landmarks, Soul Valley's shrines. Worse yet, the puzzles inside are so extremely easy that it's like taking a space motorcycle from a highly advanced AI. And if you can recall, that's pretty damn easy. This is the equivalent of me receiving access to nuclear codes for reciting my A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, element of P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Thank God at least the broken beam combo had a competent puzzle with the spider ball maze, but the others are essentially freebies. And I like the shrines as a concept. Having a challenging mini dungeon where I can use my various tools to obtain a strong optional weapon is great. It would be an interesting change of pace for the series to have an entirely puzzle-centric series of rooms with maybe hints of combat. But no, not only are the shrines inaccessible until you have the correct abilities, unlike the game they're based on, they're charity work disguised as a puzzle. All in all, I'm trying to say that these are some of the coolest optional upgrades in the series, but now devoid of the pleasant anticipation of discovery. Next, you can't have 100% completion without aiming to fill out the logbook too. And Prime 4 has taken a couple steps towards removing missable entries. For example, the Guardian bosses, save Omega Griever for clear reasons, can be scanned after their fight in the aptly named Sanctum of Guardians. The Snow Wolf Pack, another seemingly missable enemy, can also be spotted on the cliffsides after beating Keratos if I'm not mistaken. Nonetheless, even if it's a push in the right direction, there still are 10 limited logbook entries, though we can only hope for a future where that number becomes 0. Other than missable scans, Samus's logbook is yet again a joy to complete. Between the categories of biology, machines, Lemorne Legacy, and technology, there's a grand total of 127 of these suckers. There's plenty of lore tidbits that make the creatures of Viros more than targets to incinerate due to your incessant need for full HP 100% of the time. No, I'm not projecting, you're projecting!
Did someone say projectiles?
Projectiles? Wait, no! Oh, so I bet you're wondering by this point, what do you get for 100% completion? Well, first and foremost, you'll receive Sylux's sad backstory scene, along with a glimpse of Samus's hyper-realistic face. Not the craziest rewards ever, but that's the norm for Metroid Prime. The other gift you get for your efforts is a collection of gallery images. The main thing I adore about unlockable in-game galleries is being able to see the concept art that didn't make it into the final release. In Primes 1 through 3, there was a solid balance between rough sketches, scrapped content, and final products. It gave a development-wide insight into the team's ideas. As I was scrolling the one in Prime 4, though, I noticed something mildly troubling. The gallery unlocks are all, and I mean all, final drafts. Fully colored, rendered, and finalized artworks that seem like they were the last thing created before being put in the game. Not being able to view the creative production process kinda defeats the purpose of a dedicated gallery, don't you think? If I wanted to see finished models of the characters, enemies, and locations, I would probably just play the game. Doesn't help that there isn't even a model viewer like with Prime Remastered. At least that section is meant for inspecting detailed models and showcasing the lovely art direction. And adding insult to injury, I just realized while gathering footage, there isn't even a music archive. That was also in Prime Remastered, which is also by Retro Studios. It's really a combination of these omitted elements that lead me to wonder if Metroid Prime 4 was forced to release during the Nintendo holiday cycle. Like, I'm sure there are many flaws in this game that would have 100% made it into the final release, delay or not, but a part of me can't help but wonder if there was more cut or planned content beyond the trooper dialogue that we had scrapped to make the release window.
I'm gonna stop you right there.
Samus Aran? Kensuke Tanabe?
That's right, and frankly, son, you seem to know a little too much.
So there was supposed to be a romance option for View 995.
What the are you on about, son?
Also, aren't you retiring soon? Why are you here?
It's funny, really. Many people seem to think I don't understand what bounty hunting is. In reality, it's one of my favorite hobbies.
So what you're saying is?
Nanomachines, son.
Wait, so Sylux's backstory was bare bones because the truth is that he's you? And before anyone could find out, you used time travel to alter the timeline so that Metroid Prime 4 would have a 2-decade-long wait.
You catch on quick, son, but how quick can you catch these hands?
Oh, thank goodness, it was all just a nightmare.
Good morning, sweetie. Let's make like the pots and the pans and get this chromium caboose clank, clank, clanking.
Alright, enough speculating and more rating, Hunter. Metroid Prime 4, despite its flaws, has a comparable content volume to the other games in its series. It is a good title, but doesn't do quite enough to justify $70 for approximately 12 to 18 hours of gameplay. Scouring for collectibles was still entertaining, and the addition of scout bots alleviated the pain of finding any well-hidden stragglers. Prime 4 also had my favorite optional beam combos, which felt far more practical to me. My main gripe is that the shrines they're located in were uninspired with overly simple puzzles puzzles that made beam combos feel less earned. As for filling out the logbook, there were quality of life improvements with the alternatives to missable scans, however, this only accounted for some enemies. Additionally, along the way to completion, you can unlock gallery images that are less impressive than the prior games, but still a neat bonus. Also, I didn't cover this in the video, but hard mode is once again locked behind beating the game for the first time. Old habits die hard, I suppose. Overall, Metroid Prime 4 has a moderate amount of substance, but not near enough to warrant the hefty price tag, placing it at a content rating of 6 out of 10. And so, Metroid Prime 4 has finally been completely critiqued. Well, here are the total scores for the game. And as always, I must stress that ratings do not necessarily determine the game's overall quality, since preferences can vary greatly between individuals. Damn! This is the hardest video for me to make since starting the channel, and I'm not saying that just because this is by far the longest. One of the most difficult things to go through in life is having something that once gifted you your fondest memories become in itself yet another fleeting memory. It feels like saying your final farewells to an old friend that you know can never be replaced. And no, I'm not talking about you, Mackenzie. Our friendship was over before it even started. This is the series that made me a completionist. It challenged me to explore the larger-than-life settings offered by video games and appreciate their finer details. For me, the word masterpiece has always suited the Prime series to a T. At the very least, each entry was a flawed masterpiece. Maybe not perfect, but certainly a unique experience that is offered little elsewhere. So to say this quality drop for the Prime series from masterpiece to mediocre is disappointing doesn't even begin to encompass how it feels. The lore here is intriguing, the combat and enemy design is near faithful to the previous trilogy, and going for 100% completion is satisfying. Hell, its art and music direction are among the highest highs in the franchise. But that beauty is marred by half-baked characters, hand-holding progression, flagrantly linear level design, diminished atmosphere, and pointless bloat like the Green Crystal Hunt. It's a reality too painful to be a dream, yet too real to be a nightmare. Negativity aside, I am optimistic that a potential Prime 5 can turn things around. A Metroid with retro at the helm from the get-go. A Metroid not bogged down by a 2-decade-long developmental hell. A Metroid that goes beyond mediocre. I severely doubt this is the conclusion for our badass bounty hunter. We can only hope that Metroid Prime 5 solves the issues it created while also bringing back the things we fell in love with in the first place. And when that time comes, I will either be the happiest man alive or dead. Really, no in between. Also, how is this guy still going? It's been an hour!
You are also a bounty hunter, but you fight for a greater purpose.
He'll be done soon, right? I mean, I haven't said a thing to him this whole time because I was busy talking to you guys.
Here, a gift.
There it is! Finally! 100% completion. I can finally end the video. I hope I never have to hear another trooper's voice.
Come back to base camp when you're ready.
If you enjoyed this series, please consider subscribing, turning on notifications, and most importantly, tuning into the next one. It would be 100% appreciated. And please, let me know if there was anything I missed or something you believe should have been rated differently. Anyways, this has been 100% Hunter, and as always, I hope you follow your instincts and continue the hunt. The Bounty Hunt. I really wish they would change her title. Until next time, friends.